Well, we've almost made it. This is the final Sunday before Christmas. You can almost smell Christmas. And I hope that's Christmas that I'm smelling. Good, I'm glad somebody laughed at that. But through this journey, we have been looking at these themes, these kind of traditional themes that we look at every year of hope, peace, joy, and love. Today, we land on that fourth one, the big one that kind of ties it all together. And that's really the point of it all. And if I'm honest, love, just like I think I've mentioned this maybe about all of the other ones, love is a tricky word. It's a complicated word. And of all of them, it might be the one that we've worn out the most because we use it for everything. I love my wife. Aw, yeah, I love my wife. But I also love brisket. And I have a date with one of those this week. And I should probably have a date with the other one too. Yeah, see? Yeah, I got somebody that feels me. I love the Bears, especially today. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Sorry, Packer fans. I love my kids. I love It's a Wonderful Life. You get the picture. We use this for everything. And the problem, when you use that word, especially like love for everything, it just it starts to not mean anything at all. It gets thin. It becomes this kind of cardboard, Hallmark card copy of the real thing. But the love we're talking about during Advent, this love that we celebrate in Jesus, it's not like that at all. It's not sentimental, it's not empty, it's not thin, it's something much, much deeper. So just for a few minutes this morning, I want to look at one verse from the Gospel of John that really tells us what this means and I know when we talk about the Christmas story, we usually go to Matthew and Luke because they have the angels and the angels and the shepherds and all of that stuff. But John tells the Christmas story. He just does it from a very different perspective. He tells it from a cosmic perspective because he goes all the way back to the beginning of the universe to tell his version of the Christmas story. And this is what we read in John 1:14. It says, "So the Word became human and made his home among us. He was full of unfailing grace and truth, and we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son." I love how Eugene Peterson translates that middle part of the verse. He says, he moved into the neighborhood. And that's incredible to me because when you think about that, it tells me that when God wanted to communicate to us fully, when he really wanted to show us who he was, he didn't send us a text message. He didn't shout instructions from heaven with a megaphone or anything like. He didn't even look at the world and go, you know what? Good luck with that, folks. Let me know when you've got this all cleaned up. John tells us that he came himself. He became one of us. He moved into the neighborhood. Now, if you have ever moved somewhere, you know moving is a pain. Even if you've ever helped somebody move, you understand what I'm talking about. There's all of the packing and the labeling and the heavy lifting, and you break stuff and you lose stuff, and that's just on the front end of the move, because when you get to where you're going, you've got to do everything in the reverse order, right? I mean, so moving is not a hope, peace, and joy, love experience. So think about what it was like for Jesus to move, and especially where he's moving from. I mean, he's moving from the very courts of heaven, and the place that he's moving into is not a gated community with, perfectly manicured lawns and beautiful homes. He's moving into our mess of a neighborhood where kids get sick and marriages struggle and people lose jobs and hearts get broken. And even though the neighborhood is full of people, you can still feel like you're all alone. And on top of that, he didn't bring a big moving truck with him. He left all of that stuff there. And when he moved in, he really moved in. He took on all of our stuff. He took on skin. He took on nerves that felt pain, a heart that could be broken. And why would he do all of that? Why would he leave all of that behind and come to our neighborhood? Well, it's because of love. Now it's easy when you think about it because we talk about these things that, well, I love this and I love that, and it's easy to love from a distance. It's easy to feel concerned about things and to be moved by things when you're sitting on the comfort of your own couch. But it's a very different thing to move into the mess, and to move into a mess that you had nothing to do with creating. And to take that on and to come in and to touch it and heal it. But that's exactly what we see Jesus doing. That's why he came. And even though John tells us that we get this, and Paul will tell us elsewhere, that he left all of that fame and fortune of heaven behind, he did come full of two things. He came full of grace and truth, which, if you think about it, is really the essence of love. And it's probably why we have such a hard time with love, because in our minds and hearts, it's hard for us to put grace and truth together in that kind of way. Because most of us tend one direction or the other. Some of us are truth people. We're the ones, we want to correct the error. We need to win the argument and be the right one. And that's okay, but the problem is that if you have truth without grace, it's just mean. Truth just becomes a hammer that you use to beat people into submission. And then you have grace people who they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. They want everybody to feel good and to get along, and that's okay. But if you have grace without truth, that's not really grace. It's just sentimentality. It doesn't fix the things that we know are broken. John tells us that Jesus came full of both grace and truth, which means when Jesus comes, he says, I love you enough to show you the truth about your mess and your brokenness, but I also love you enough to pour my grace out so that you don't have to be destroyed by it. And we see this in how he handled the woman who was caught in adultery. He loved her enough to rescue her from the stones that were about to hit her, but then he loved her enough to say, go and sin no more. Real love, this Christmas love that we're talking about, love that is full of grace and truth, it is hard work. It's a hug and a hard conversation. It's acceptance, but it's also a call to transformation and a call to holiness. It's the kind of love that sees you exactly as you are, no filters, no highlight reels, and says, you know what, I'm moving in there and I'm going to stay, but I'm not going to leave it the way that I found it. So what do we do with this? I mean, it's good, it's fun to talk about, it's nice to talk about, it's beautiful theology, but somehow that theology has to get into real life. Somehow we have to figure out how to work this out on Thursday morning when the turkey's in the oven and your uncle, who disagrees with everybody about everything, just walked into your house. And if you can't figure out who that is in your family, that might be you. Or you don't have one, and amen. We'd celebrate that. So if God's love looks like moving into the neighborhood, and if Jesus tells us that one of the markers, the way that people will know that we are his disciples, is if we love one another, then it's probably pretty logical to say that if we're going to work this love out, it's going to have to look something like Jesus' love, right? Which when we look at Jesus' love, we see that Jesus' love is always on the move. Our love requires movement. Jesus moved toward us out of love while we were still in a mess, while everything was still broken. Our instinct is to move in the opposite direction. We move away from mess. We move away from pain. We move away from brokenness. We want safe, comfortable lives. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but if we're ever going to take the love of Christ into the brokenness, we're going to have to come off the sidelines. Incarnational love does not play safe. It moves toward brokenness. It goes across the room to the lonely person. It chooses to forgive the family member who just drives you insane. It gets its hands dirty. It's not efficient, but it's effective. So as we head into these final few days before Christmas, I guess the question for us and the challenge is simple. It's simple, but it's also difficult. Is there a neighborhood in your life, a relationship, a person, a situation that God is calling you to move into? Is there a situation that you've been avoiding because it's messy, it's complicated, it's painful, and it's easier to just keep your distance? Advent love, this love of Christ that we celebrate, it calls us off the sidelines. It asks us to stop throwing stones and start walking toward the pain. We move in, we listen, and we hold grace and truth together just like Jesus did. And I know some of you hear this and you think, man, that sounds great. I'll do my best to be nicer to people. I'll try to move in, but man, if you saw the neighborhood of my life right now, it's a wreck. And maybe you're looking at your life and all the neighborhood of your heart, and all you see are broken windows and peeling paint and dead grass, and you see regrets, you see loneliness. You feel like the last person God would want to move into next door is you. If that's you, I want you to hear the words of John 1:14 again. It says, He made His home among us. He became human. He moved into the neighborhood. The original language there for became human is this idea of pitching a tent. It's a nod to the Old Testament of the tabernacle tent that would move through the wilderness with the people of Israel. But the other thing about tents is that tents are portable. They go where people go. And here's why that's significant. If you are in a wilderness right now that you don't think anybody else wants to move into, Jesus says, you know what? I've come to pitch my tent right there. He's not waiting for you to find your way to his palace. He's already come and moved into the neighborhood. He wants to pitch his tent right there in the dirt next to you. You don't have to flip your house before he shows up. You don't have to fix the plumbing and mow the lawn and get your act together before you're worthy of his presence. Love moved in while the neighborhood was still a mess, while it was still broken. So if you're feeling distant from God today, hear this. He isn't disgusted by your neighborhood. He's not bothered by your struggle. He isn't tired of the same old issues that you have. He's the God of the move-in. He's the God who says, I know exactly what's broken in there, and I'm choosing this house. I'm going to stay right here. But I can tell you, if he moves into your neighborhood, he's going to do some work. Grace and truth. He's going to pull weeds. He's going to tear down fences. He's going to plant flowers over there. He loves you enough to move into your neighborhood as it is, but he also loves you enough to not leave it the way that he found it. So as we get ready once again on Christmas Eve to light these 4 candles, and then the final one, the Christ candle, I want us to remember what we're doing here and what we're talking about here. These things, hope, peace, joy, and now love, they're not just 4 nice words on a wreath. They're not really things at all. They're a person. The Word who became human, who made his home among us as a baby in a manger. He is our hope. He is our peace. He is our joy. And he is the love of God that moved in. So as we close this morning, there's a couple of ways you can respond, and we're not going to make this dramatic or anything, but the first response is maybe you're the one you feel that maybe God's calling me to move into this neighborhood that with his love. Maybe your love has been a little too safe, too comfortable. Is there a relationship that you have backed away from, or a need that you've ignored? Maybe this Christmas God is calling you to take your love from safe to incarnational, to move toward the mess. Or maybe you're the one who said, I'm the one whose neighborhood is a wreck. Maybe you're the one who needs this God to move in. You might have felt like he was distant, like he was disappointed in you, almost like he's waiting for you to get your act together before he loves you. And the good news, if you're tired of keeping him at arm's length, there's an invitation for you to receive that unfailing grace and truth today. Would you pray with me?